corallium hasn't been extensively sampled in this area, but you know, it's extremely brittle, and trying to touch that colony might actually result in the entire thing falling down, which would be pretty much a disaster. So try and pick our battles here. Not something we want to start probing around on that side of that size of that wall.
I'm not sure if you guys already answered this, but that large fan that we saw earlier, what kind of growth rate is that? Would we have any kind of concept of its potential age range?
Are you talking about the spiral?
No, the large.
The white fan. Yeah, I don't think that's well known. You know, coralliids, they're extremely slow growing, and
got a very large sponge coming up.
You know, it's hard to really estimate a date on these things, because in most cases, especially for the very old ones, getting an accurate date might require sampling the base, and unless the colony is already dead, it's very difficult to sample a base of a very large colony like that to get age dating on it.
We might need to back up a little on this one to get that full thing in.
It's probably the biggest sponge we've ever seen on this expedition.
Copy. Even back a little.
Wow.
Wow. With a sea star.
Well, maybe not as big as I thought.
Oh yeah, wow. On the right-hand side, there's a sea star.
Tall.
Wow, this is really big.
We definitely want to get a view of the sponge and the sea star and everything.
Coming off.
You got it?
We look up and down inside the...
I can look down. Yeah, give me a sec.
So the ship stopped at like 1708, Fernando?
17, yeah, about 1707.
Okay.
This looks different than the last one, the one we saw in the distance.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a morphology like this before. Most likely a glass sponge, though.
Yeah, it looks like it could be a glass.
Yeah, that's all the down I got. All right. Moving forward.
Maybe rotate around to the right, because we want to look at that sea star.
I'll have to come down to look at the sea star. Wow.
Okay.
It's not going to be cooperative.
That's all the down my camera has rolling.
Okay.
Getting a good look now inside the osculum of the sponge. Nothing living in there that we can see. Sometimes, though, these sponges have a polychaete or sometimes shrimp associated with them. Not seeing that here.
Ready for zoom?
Sure, go for it.
This looks like a different sea star.
Yeah, I would say...
It's definitely different from what we were seeing deeper.
Copper bridge.
Yeah, I would say, couldn't even guess at this one.
Sea star. White sea star.
But yeah, these sea stars, I remember our sea star expert, Chris Ma, from the Smithsonian Institution, saying that these sea stars are very poorly known, or sea stars generally are pretty poorly known below about 2,000 meters in this part of the world. And I don't think it would be impossible to say that.
Let's look at the edge of the sponge where it goes to the interior.
I don't think it would be impossible to say in this case that this sponge is being fed upon by the sea star here. Some sea stars are known to feed on sponges.
We'll push to the background in a minute.
Hey, this is Chris Ma.
Chris, you saved us. Tell us something about the sea star.
So this is really nice because this is an observation of a really rare sea star. We've seen it once before on this expedition. This is Pythonaster. The species from this area is Pythonaster atlantitis. I don't know that's what this is for sure, but it's probably not a bad guess. This is actually something that we've seen, the behavior of it being perched on this sponge and probably feeding on it is something that we have observed in the Pacific. There was that one giant sponge that Chris Kelly had imaged, and while we were surveying it, we saw a Pythonaster on that one doing probably the same thing this one is doing, which is feeding on it. So, as I'd mentioned, I think earlier, this particular species was at one point considered one of the rarest known. There were fewer than a dozen specimens in museums worldwide, and each one was essentially considered its own species. So, having a virtual wealth of imagery is just a joy, and we're now seeing feeding data from species of Pythonaster present from both the Atlantic and the Pacific. This is the first, I think, feeding observation of this species from the deeps of the Atlantic. So this is just really making me really happy, simply because this is a rare thing and it's doing something. This is like I almost want to sort of go back in a time machine and tell Walter Percy Sladen, hey dude, guess what I saw? That's some of the stuff that because they found these things and they were just fantastic, but they had no clue what because these come up in trawls and they're often damaged and really poorly, they're in really poor shape. And these, the ones that we often see, they're in situ, and the ones that we've collected, they're just perfect. So I only wish we kind of knew what all of the strange structures on the body surface were for, all of the weird ruffles and all of the, the bizarre, the sort of bizarre skeletal adaptations. Maybe one of these days someone from a time machine will come back and tell me what all that was about. But just to be able to say that these, were feeding and doing things in a very sort of sea star-like way was, is a very interesting observation in itself. So, as the Australians are fond of saying, well done. And, I hope that we get to see, there's a 7-armed sea star that we saw in Puerto Rico in 2015, Late Master Spectabilis. And it was the first time it had been seen literally since the 19th century. So hopefully today we'll get to see that. And if we do, we'll certainly, hear from me again. But, of course, sooner for other.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, while you're here, did you catch that sea star we saw when we first sat down this morning? There were small goniastrids.
Yeah, I think those are Ceramaster grenadensis. I'd have to double check, but because there are a couple of Ceramaster species known from this area that are still undescribed. This is one of those things that are we have specimens in the collection from deep water tropical Atlantic. They just haven't, Gerald Halpern from the 70s had started some papers on them, and he never got to finish them.
A little bit.
Unfortunately, they're sitting around the collections with manuscript names, and I haven't gotten around to working on them.
All right.
This is the sort of unfortunate aspect of describing the species. Sometimes it occurs at a very slow rate. There's a paper that estimated that there's an average of about 21 years between the time a specimen is collected to the time it makes it to a shelf, to the time it actually reaches publication. And this is they collected some of those in the 70s, so this is quite a bit longer than that. But but the things from the Pacific on Okeanos, will be coming up soon, so they'll be under the average. But we will undoubtedly see
a little bit of
new species of sea stars. I'm still kind of looking forward to seeing the one that you collected the other day and the other ones from the Gulf that were collected, because I'm just, I'd long been given the impression that Atlantic species were relatively well known, and here you have these, these new things that I just,
all right.
didn't
Tilting
have
back
any
down.
idea were there. So those are genuine sort of discoveries that I really relish, and and then seeing it alive on top of that, that's the thing, is you have a lot of these specimens that just sit in drawers for so long, and nobody, they're just independent of any of the setting and the original biology. So definitely, just such a delight to be able to study these animals, to get observations of them doing what they do in situ, but then being able to later follow up and document that and enter it into the record. So anyway, that's probably a little too talky. But thanks.
All right,
you.
thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So maybe if you want to start making your way over
Pilot,
to
also, I
these
want
other
to
rocks.
just make sure that you're aware, we're also on the lookout for rocks, and I don't see any loose in the area, but keep your eye out.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a good geological understanding about this particular area, and a collection of a loose rock that seems to be more or less in place would be a great advantage to our geologists on shore. I love this little knoll here. I would love to
Yeah.
have seen it when it was just covered with corals, because you can see at least a dozen stumps
So just jump onto the next.
in a spot.
Yeah,
It's
and you
pretty
can look at
amazing,
that
this
face over there.
topography.
Pilots, what do you feel about?
This
We
is
haven't seen
amazing.
this
Yeah.
yet.
80?
on this
080,
expedition.
sure.
Copy that.
This is the kind of stuff you see in the Pacific on seamounts and on these ridges in the middle of the ocean, but this is not something we would expect to see in 20 miles from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But here we are.
She had plenty of tether to look at that rock face there, and I'll be moving in
Hollow
that direction in
3 on
5 minutes.
HD2.
4 or 5 minutes.
What was that video?
There's a hollow 3 in HD2's feed. Just flew over. It's another sea star upper left.
Okay.
Oh, there's like another sea star right to the upper left. Kylie, could we just do a snapshot? A snap zoom?
Yeah, I will. Watch lead. Okay, coming partial video. Hold right there. Okay, come in a little bit more. Hold right there.
This looks, I'm not sure if it's a different species or, yeah, it looks different than the ones that we saw deeper.
Partial
and
out.
Also
Let me
just
come back
on
right
the,
there.
on the sponge.
Looks like its exit hole is open.
Okay, let's try to come.
Gonna go full wide.
Yeah, let's come
Oh,
out.
it's just,
I haven't done one of these ones in a while. Sorry for that video.
Cool looking chimney sponge over there.
Okay.
So this is another really tall glass sponge. Which could be a Bathydoris.
Just a quick, hey, this is Chris. Just
Hi,
a quick
Chris.
note on that sea star.
So I'm
That's
moving now. Fernando.
Pteraster or
Copy. It was put in about 4
Hymenaster. And you got a really nice shot of its
Interesting,
osculum
'cause I don't
opening and closing there.
Remember flying
Yeah, I
like a
saw right
local
at the
peak
end,
here. I
well,
mean,
before we pulled away.
Yeah.
Can come in a little bit video.
there's nothing on
Anyway,
sonar,
right there.
and I can't see
Um,
beyond
I'll look
anything.
forward to
I
the
can
video.
do a-
Thanks.
Pteraster,
Bye-bye.
you
I wonder
said,
if we're gonna
Chris?
have to
Oh, come on down.
I would say
do a hop
Hymenaster.
Hymenaster?
in the midwater.
Yeah,
Require
they're
the slope.
there's
Yeah.
a gray boundary with some of them, but
I mean, it
I
shows
think that one's more Hymenaster-like.
head.
Okay,
It gets
thank
slightly
you.
flatter, which could
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
maybe it averages
Step.
it,
Yeah.
so it's slightly down. But
Okay, video.
sometimes those
Do you
can
wanna come in or
Go
be
to the
hidden
top.
within the imagery.
okay? Trying to get you a top.
You want to
Come in
range out my sonar to
slowly.
80 meters? That's what you find.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. Let's keep it there because I might lose it.
So it looks
Okay.
like the sponge that we saw earlier with
Dan, you're getting
a sea star. This is a glass sponge, but this
Yeah.
seems to be a little bit more fouled.
Me to try to adjust.
with
Sure.
detritus. This could be a Bathydoris.
Maybe we
Thanks
can come
to
in a
our
little bit more
sponge
if you want. Right there, hold right there.
specialist on shore. This is good
Yeah,
pilot,
we'll get up
thank
to the
you.
top of this peak
Okay,
and then
copy video.
might have to
We're good.
do a hop through the
Okay,
water column.
thank you, video. That was a little bit better.
All right, it's a little better. Dan,
Did you still have a lot of zoom?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything past 20
Okay.
meters.
So for those who are tuning in,
really seeing
good
anything,
afternoon.
Uh-uh.
Today we are exploring this deep
It's
structure
a D2 still C.
off a Jaguey Spur,
that's
which
that-
is off the coast,
yeah,
southwest
there.
coast of Puerto Rico. We're a little bit southwest of our yesterday's site, about 24, 26 miles offshore. And we started off in soft sediment, but then
Okay, just
reached
jump
a
up
really
to that one.
steep
Yeah,
ridge,
let's do
which
that.
we've been
maybe
slowly
we can
climbing.
range
We
out.
started today
D2 sonar. Let's do another
dive
10
at
meters at 075.
2,786
Copy that.
meters. And we are now at a depth of 2,656 meters. We've been seeing a lot of these, seems to be dead branches of possible octocorals. But we saw a really nice, pretty large, actually the largest octocoral we've seen so far on this expedition at 2,600.
I can see a little something out
Which
in
could be a
D2's camera
corallium.
there. Some textured slope
We've
there.
seen a lot of bamboo corals and a couple black corals,
It's just a little local peak.
a lot of glass
So why don't you
sponges.
explore this peak here until
all
we
different
catch up.
types.
Right there, you can
Alright.
see it on
Soft and
D2
unsoft.
sonar.
Ah, there it is. So that's 20 meters in front of D2.
But the
D2 is about
topography
20
in this
meters
site
ahead
is
of me.
Another
very
sea star.
dramatic.
All
We have
right.
these really steep slopes, and then these
And
channels
we have maybe 10 to 15 meters
full of
in
sediment
this
and
move.
debris.
Okay.
Looks like there might be a squat lobster at the base of this outcrop.
The tether sign right there, right? Like it won't hit that last peak.
I'm sorry?
The tether will not hit that
No,
last
no,
peak.
no, no. We're We're clear of that.
Yeah, your AF cam looks good too. You can see it. It's
All
well
right.
below you.
Okay. All
Good,
right.
good
AF
awareness,
cam
though.
seems to be working well.
Yeah, it's been pretty reliable today. I had to cycle it a couple times this morning, but
Okay.
it's been holding up well this afternoon. I think you can range me back down to 50.
Yeah, copy that.
Oh, yeah, able to get a nice shot of this star, huh?
Okay, video, come in. Hold right there.
Yeah, this is, I believe this is the sea star that we were seeing at the beginning of the dive. Could be a Sierra Master.
Okay, you can come in if you want. A little bit more.
A little more center up.
You can see the 2 feet hanging off of one of the arms.
It also seems to have that similar yellow dot as we were seeing on those sea stars the other day.
Yeah, that's the madreporite that helps with the water vascular system, which helps regulate the 2 feet. So the sea star that we saw yesterday had an abnormal large madreporite. This seems to be normal size on this sea star. We were seeing these are the ones that we were seeing in the beginning of the dive, right? Sierra Masters? Or is it a little bit different?
I think
like
the
more cookie.
yeah the arms on this one are a little bit longer with respect to the radius of the disc in the center. So I think the cookies were a little bit smaller.
Maybe go ahead and put another movie.
They were obviously feeding on the sediment. I don't know if these would be sea star predators.
I was waiting for you, Chris.
You're probably 15.
Please continue. Someone was
Probably
talking.
30
I
meters
apologize.
upstairs.
Yeah.
No, I was just trying to think. I usually
do
see these
I'm gonna try
types of
15 to start
stars
with.
on corals. Is that right? Or predating
Yes.
them?
That's
15
so
or
good.
Goni
15 or
astrids
20.
are
15.
big coral predators.
15.
There's
15 would be good.
This one
one
is
subgroup, the
T2, right?
Hippasterinae,
Yeah, that's the
which
peak
you
we're in
often
right now.
find
So that we're looking at that one,
extending their stomachs onto
which
the
is that
polyps
slope beyond
of sea
T2 right
stars.
now. You see it in the background.
Okay.
Onto the polyps of
So
coral.
while you're looking at this,
This one is interesting because at this depth,
So it's 75,
there's only a couple of known
75 seems to be
Goni
good.
astrid species. I suspect this one might actually be. There's a Pacific one that we collected that
070,
hasn't yet been described.
yeah.
It's in the paper that's coming up when I publish the Pacific
Right, 15
capstone findings. And
070.
I think this might actually be an Atlantic species
I'll
of
put it in if
one
ready.
of the genera I described in that. So, because the thing is, it's very distinctive. It has smooth plates on the marginal surface, and the disc itself also looks relatively featureless. And at this depth, like I said, there's relatively few sort of known prospects. So I would say the next time, if we see this on a coral or something, that's something that would be worth picking up. But for now, it's a novel observation. The video shot's
we
really
can call
good.
off
So
that move if you want.
that's a good one
and watch
to
it.
sort
What are you
of keep
thinking
in
about
mind
collecting?
as we move on to the
The sea star.
cool thing.
Put it to this now.
But that's
Yeah, we
definitely
can.
something that I would
let's take a look at
describe
it.
as intriguing.
I think we're gonna
So-
maybe see if we could maybe do a collection, see how far we're in.
All right, so the
And
sea
if we're
star
in
Yeah,
was
if you don't mind,
great
I don't
position.
want
We'll
to
evaluate it.
interrupt
Right here,
anything
right.
that's going on right now.
Lasers.
I remember, I don't even know how big that is. I remember I asked for them to collect that cookie star, and it was filled the screen, and then when I got it, it turned out to be,
Brought the
less
ship
than an
to
inch.
easy step, Sean.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite hear.
Yeah.
It's very small.
But it was new.
Yeah, I think we only
So-
moved.
Fortunate for you,
2
we're
meters or
kind of
something.
just
Okay.
We're about to call in another move on the ship, and we're kind of stopped. So the pilots are going to try and see what they can do here.
So let's
You know,
evaluate
no
this.
promises.
Okay.
But you know, it's tough to grab something that's like 5 centimeters with a giant claw.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and it's not
It's
on,
kind of stuck in there.
it's
But
not
we'll
on
see what we can
soft
do for you.
sediment. It's on.
Hey, you don't need to tell me that. But if anybody can do it, it's those fantastic engineers at GFOE.
Oh, that sounds like a tagline.
Yeah.
All right.
Want to do the commercial?
The Global Foundation for Ocean Engineering, a bunch of really swell guys that can do all sorts of amazing
Do
things.
you wanna
Guys and
press
girls,
J-lock
yeah.
for me?
Guys on girls. I'm
Co-pilot.
sorry, guys and girls.
Women.
Okay.
Talented people from
Yes.
around the world.
There you
Get the
go.
arm out. Let's evaluate this.
But
Can
I
you come
mean,
in a little bit on the main
I-
main camera?
the stories were that they could pick up an egg
Okay, right there.
with
That's
those
good.
claws. And if that's the case, then
Um,
something like this is something I fully expect they'll be up to the challenge.
well, what are your thoughts? Like, what's your evaluation?
I'm just doing a little bit of strategy now to see how this how we can do this.
Oh, that's all right. I know that they like it quiet
I would
while
even think
they
almost
actually do the
scoop it,
work, so
try to scoop.
I'll be watching. But
Because it looks
it's
super tiny.
it's a fairly
I think it would fall right through the fingers.
uh,
I don't even know if you'd necessarily even
soft
be able
but durable animal. So,
to, right? Because it's only, well,
but it's not
Pretty
going to like
close.
come apart
I guess
when
it's
they, when they
3-4
grab it. So.
centimeters.
Right.
And the nice thing about them is even if they're
And
kind
it's
of bent
kind of a-
over and
It's kind of a
whatnot, there's
strange
5
angle for the
equal
scoop.
parts.
but-
So
What I was thinking if you get it right underneath it, right? Because it's pretty much vertical.
One of the pros for working on
Yeah, the angle's
symmetrical
you almost
animals
would
and
have to
corals, one bit is as good as the rest of it.
back up. Or
Usually.
something.
yeah,
So you
yes.
have to-
Well,
Well, it's up to you, Fernando.
most,
You're the
if you're lucky
pilot,
that I
so-
mostly work on goni asteroids and not
Yeah,
tear
okay.
asteroids, because if we were picking up those hymenaster things, that would just be messy. By the way, Steve, what depth is this?
We're sitting at around 2,650 meters.
watch lead. This is pilot. So the angle where it is. First, the size of the sea star is a little too small to grab it with the actual manipulator. So we would probably need the scoop for this, but the angle right there for the scoop would be kind of difficult to actually get it. So I don't think we can get the sea star right now.
Okay, well, we'll leave it up to your expert opinion. You know, hopefully we'll come across another one.
Okay, sorry for that, watch lead.
Thanks for trying, though. I appreciate your work.
Okay.
Our pilots. Do you want me to reinitiate that move?
Yeah. So when did the ship stop? When did you have them come to a stop?
I think it got about 2 to 3 meters in, so it didn't move that far.
What time was that?
I had it stopped at within 30 seconds of calling it.
Or what time on the UTC?
Oh, sorry, 17:39.
Okay. So we're whatever move we did see,
Yeah.
probably settled out by now. So right now, yeah, it's 15 meters to D2.
And you're probably 10 meters from D2?
Yeah, or maybe 15.
Are we all the way out,
So why don't
video?
yeah, we could do. We'll just do our 15 again.
Thank
Copy.
you.
So I
15
did 7-0.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Copy that. I'll put it in.
Okay, so let me get on top of this and then just okay, so
So it's 1744. So we have 15 meters incoming,
So
which will get
if
you
you
right
are
up to
just
the wall,
joining us,
Fernando.
we are
You can push out a
today
little bit,
at
see how close you can get.
2,655
Copy.
meters off the southwest corner of Puerto Rico in an area called the Jaguey Spur.
Fernando, is nav supposed to be
is
doing
a
anything with this laptop?
Long ridge-like
Oh,
feature
screen saver
extends
came
south of the island.
I don't have the password.
We're diving today in one of the deepest dives in the Caribbean basin for this expedition. We started today around 2,700 meters, moving up towards about 2,400 meters depth at the end of our dive. We anticipate we'll get there, but we'll have to move pretty quickly.
I'm going to bring my camera up to 30 degrees.
This dive is, we expect, going to be one of the, as we just mentioned, one of the deeper ones for a little while. Towards the middle of next week and the beginning of next week, we anticipate some weather in the area that may force us to change our dive tracks around a little bit, but we'll keep you updated on that.
Does Dive Super go to Jeff? Or
More than likely tomorrow we'll be in the vicinity of the Mona Canyon and the Mona Passage. And then the following day, try to head out to the north side of the island of Puerto Rico and the region of Arecibo or thereabouts, if we can. And then duck back off the west coast of Puerto Rico for the weather that's coming our way, where we anticipate to be in a type of wind shadow that will allow us to still dive despite the heavy seas in the area. But today we're diving in a particularly interesting area that has some incredible topography. We started off in a bit of a sedimented flat landing spot and then quickly proceeded up slope.
Good.
And this
like
has pretty much been the
just
way it's been going for the dive so far. Lots of vertical and steep rock, exposed rock. It's not immediately clear what kind of rock this is, but we've been looking for a rock sample to better understand the geology of this area.
Can even push forward a little bit if you want to get to the slope. Oh, I see a coral up above you.
Oh, okay.
You could get to that.
Right
We
here.
do see that a lot of the substrate here is very much coated with this thick black layer of iron manganese crust. There's a coral that's coming into our view now. This one looks to be about the 5th record of Iridogorgia magnispiralis we've seen on this type of terrain. This is a Chrysogorgia octocoral. We've seen quite a bit on this dive, always extending off of these promontories.
Okay, video, do you want to come in?
That's
Oh,
crazy.
skeleton.
That's huge.
Hold right there.
We're
I'm
just
going to turn
looking at
lasers
the
off for a minute.
substrate.
Copy.
And I'm definitely moving to you now.
How did I get it?
Would you be able to, like, if you collected one of these skeleton pieces, be able to identify them or no? It would be very hard.
It may be difficult. It depends on the group. Yeah.
Do you want to come in on the base or just take a look and come up?
So, pilot, after
ahead.
we're done looking. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Watch lead.
Sorry, to the right, we saw something that looked like a very large, long piece of skeleton on the seafloor.
Okay.
It's just, like 3 o'clock right now. It's extending off to the top of the screen. I was wondering if we could get a better zoom on that.
All right.
You've got tether now, Fernando.
Copy. So let me know.
We might.
Are we done video with this?
Yep.
Okay. And then you said at 3 o'clock, so
Yeah.
to the right of the screen?
Yep. It's just to the right of the coral here. We probably don't need to set down, but just hold a zoom for a moment while we
Okay.
take a peek. There's a long
Just
stem
right
that's
of
on
center?
top of a rock,
Oh, okay.
or a long stick that's just kind of lying flat there.
All right.
I was just
let's
curious
come in
because I
video.
thought I saw some finer structures.
Hold right there.
Wait, my eyes are deceiving me on this.
Yeah, it looks like it could be some branch of something.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the more substantial
come in,
pieces
video.
we've seen in this area. beyond, besides the bases.
I'm approaching it slowly.
It's at least a meter long, maybe a meter and a half long.
Yeah, it goes all the way up here.
Yeah.
All right, Bots.
Okay.
So that moves
Okay.
in 6 minutes ago.
Well, thanks, Pilot. I think that's
4 minute
enough
delay,
for us.
2 minutes
Alright,
after,
let's
so you
come
should
out
be coming
video.
to a stop soon.
When did that move stopped?
Move stopped about 4 minutes ago.
Okay.
So with the delay, you should be about settled.
Okay.
Coming to settled.
Sounds good.
It looks like that feature from Cirrus is just under 25 meters away. So this should be a good spot.
You think about another 10 meters at 065. That's where I'm looking now.
Hoy estamos explorando
Does that work for you? Let's just go ahead and put
una
another 10 meters.
cuesta
Yeah.
o
We can
un
move up this pretty
I
quickly.
think it looks good. All right, 10
monte
meters, 6'5",
pequeño
coming in.
Alright.
suroeste de la costa de Puerto Rico. Se llama Jaguey Spur. Empezamos el buceo en 2.700 metros y ahora estamos en 2.600 más o menos metros. Este sitio es muy diferente de ayer. Ayer estábamos más cerca de la costa de la Braguera.
There looks to be something alive on that branch on the far right
Yeah,
hand
it
side.
looks like, yeah, I can see something.
Does look like to be growing from the dead.
It could be a newly settled coral growing from that branch,
Right
rather
here?
than.
One off next to the sediment
You never know.
in the
Next
background.
to the sediment.
Get a long range zoom, maybe we can tell.
Are you talking about the on the left or
Far
right
right
here?
hand side.
Right.
Far right hand side.
There's in the background. There's a long stalk.
Okay.
With
Oh,
a-
I see it. Okay.
Looks like some more live tissue on the end.
All right.
You were asking for a commensal coral, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. This is interesting because I'm pretty sure as we're moving closer now that this coral, yeah, it's not part of what's making this. This larger, more robust stem, although they could be related. This rock type almost looks volcanic.
Yeah,
Like cracked basalt.
All right.
But this gives us an idea in kind of 3 dimensions how these corals branch, these older manganese-covered colonies.
Let's come in video.
Yeah. So
All
I
right
think
there.
we don't need to spend too much time here. I think we're just looking at, from a distance we thought we saw something that could be like live material on this old one, but it looks to be just a manganese-covered stalk with another bamboo coral on it.
All right.
Thanks, Pilot. Although I see it looks like a number of encrusting organisms,
Okay,
Yeah.
video very good.
Sponges
We can come
possibly,
out.
or bryozoans.
some mycetrum swimming close to the branches.
Yeah, if there is any rocks, pilot, I know that everything here looks pretty hard, and but if anything looks cracked off or breakable, let us know.
Could be something loose over there.
Something branching.
I don't see anything that might be loose or smalling off. So that move was done about 2 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you found something now, you'd be fine.
All right. Let's come in partially video.
Taking a look at some sponges now on this base of something, possibly a coral.
Approaching it slowly.
Look like they could be glass sponges.
What is that?
It's a really
I'm trying
thick
to do the sponges
branch.
in the foreground.
Yeah.
diameters.
A good, at least 3 centimeters, I would say, across. Sponges, I think this is mostly just encrusting sponges and one
All right.
smaller sponge. We've seen this one quite a bit, this puffy,
the-
cloud-shaped
I
one,
don't think we can go farther in video, sorry.
as well as tulip sponge.
All right.
Seems to be
We can
stalked.
come out.
Another cup coral. I think that might be the same species we saw further
Deeper.
down below, yeah. I know that the genus Juvenia is known from this area as deep as a couple kilometers. It's not unreasonable to think that it couldn't be deeper, but looks like that as well.
Bites, while you catch up, quick heading change.
Sure.
Just amazed at how many bases there are. You think that maybe these were all living here at the same time, which is possible, or they could have lived at different times, but
So I think the next move is probably going to
That
be
looks
more
different.
like a
that fan in the background looks a little bit different. Pilot,
050.
Okay.
I'd like to look at that.
We're heading there.
Yeah, 045.
But I know there are some pretty high density coral communities in seamounts on the Pacific Ocean, so it's not unreasonable to think that there might just have been some extremely distant point in the past that a lot of these corals were living, all on this side of this ridge feature. So we're going to take a peek at this coral colony here. It looks to be a little bit more robust than a lot of the other branching coral colonies we've seen so far,
Okay, come in video.
other than perhaps the corallium we saw. Things always look a lot bigger in the distance, I guess.
Yeah.
But this one does look like a bamboo coral based on the nodes we see, the dark proteinaceous bands. The skeleton here looks a little bit thicker, but I'd say the polyps look pretty similar to the ones we were seeing, but kind of different in that there's a little bit more coloration on some of these polyps. They look a little bit thicker.
Do you want to come in tighter?
And we're gonna
Trying to determine if there's just a difference in the angle, that those branches at the back look more white than the ones in the foreground, or if that's just the way the light is reflecting off
Yeah,
them.
Sean, whenever we...
But yeah, these
they're done at that
generally
heading
look
change,
similar. You know, that
I'd
node
say
that we're looking
15
at right
meters at
there, is that
045
branch
looks like
arising
it's
from the node? If it is,
flattening
that
out a
would
bit.
be a
Okay, let
difference.
me know what you want, video.
Yeah, it's
Repeat.
tough to see
Pilot?
because it's in the background.
Let me know what you want.
Okay.
Pilot,
He's
can,
looking
can
at
we
the
turn and look at it more on a plane?
Okay.
Because we're kind of looking
Let's
at
come
it
out, video.
Trying to look at that
at a weird angle.
branch point with the node.
Oh, for the testing? I'd leave 5 minutes for the testing. Oh, I see. I'm sure whoever...
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
5 minutes for testing and 5 minutes for setup.
it doesn't look as
10 minutes.
All right, let's come in, video.
Yeah.
I think it would
as
be too
thin
far
and
away.
wispy as the
it's-
colonies we were looking at this morning. But you know, if we can get a better image of this node and figure out where the branch is occurring relative to the nodes, that might help narrow things down a bit. The polyps
Yeah,
also.
I was wondering if this might be more like what we would call isodella.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah, it's branching at the node.
I would say so. Yeah, at least 2 branch points show branching in the node.
Yeah. So I'm not convinced this is isodella. This still may be J clays, and I'm basing that partly
Side
on the
tilt
relative
down.
thickness of those polyps. But this is certainly different from what we collected earlier today. So
Hold there.
Very good. All right, pilot, thanks. I think we're all set with this one.
Okay. All right.
So we just put in a 15-meter move at 045.
045.
045.
That's where I'm facing now, and it looks like the slope's a lot shallower coming up, so
Okay,
we should
pushing
start
out.
feeling that move in maybe 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then everyone start moving up slope.
Sounds good. And that was 15 meters, right?
1.5, yeah.
Copy.
But we should still have some room to push out a little bit if you want.
Okay. So we are a bit deeper today, as we've been saying, so our dive is going to be a little bit shorter bottom time than usual to make time for the transportation through the water column up and down. Pilot, this is Watch Lead.
Go ahead.
Do you have an estimate for bottom time?
The navigator can get back to you on that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was hitting the I was hitting the wrong button. $18.50. Excellent.
Any interest on this coral right here?
Yeah, maybe just a snap zoom.
Okay, let me just get a little bit closer. Video. All right, let's come in.
Looks a lot like the coral we sampled I would say, like the coral we sampled this morning.
Coming a little bit closer.
Yeah, so among the differences, that last colony that we just looked at grows in a very
tilt
planar
down to look at
format.
the
You can see this one
lower
is much more
arm.
loose. The branches come off at various angles.
Right there.
No clear pattern to it. And it's a lot harder to see nodes, but they are certainly not at the branch points. So at least two different species here.
Copy.
Rotate right.
Good to note. Small shrimps in the vicinity of the colony. That's something we've been noticing today too. Not a lot of coral
Video is
associates
clear.
necessarily. Usually some
What was that video?
Video is
anemones
clear.
as well
Okay,
as
let's come out then.
shrimps. Yeah, a couple of brittle stars. Yeah, it's a lot of debris. You know, I was thinking that, that corallium we saw, the very large fan, I don't think that is what is making these rubble piles, but things can happen. It could be stranger, only because the corallium branches are very thin, and only in certain parts of the colony does it form these really large, thick branches. Could be. Usually when we see things like this, it's bamboo corals or coralliids, possibly paragorgiids too, but haven't seen any paragorgia in this area on this dive.
This is also pretty deep for paragorgia, so at least I don't expect it would have grown in situ at this depth unless, these are left over from a very long
You kind of
time ago when
settle
this particular feature we're looking
to
at was at a different
starboard.
sea level.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
I was
turn my head
thinking
to
that as
starboard
well.
to line up with the slope.
These features, we kind of think of them as
You can do it
static,
slowly,
but in
not
fact
rush,
they're
but
not.
just generally.
When certain parts of the basin in tectonic or geologic history may have been created or formed or subsided, that changes the substrate with respect to where the biology can live. But we're talking about hundreds to thousands to millions of years for those processes to occur.
Yeah, this looks about right. 055.
Oh,
Copy 055. It's been about 6 minutes since the last one's called in.
Yeah.
So you should
Maybe
be
we
about
should go ahead
settled.
and do.
We just stick with 15 for now.
usually with these types
Do a
of
little. It's definitely
volcanic
Yeah,
Shower,
15.
but-
15's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Copy 15
rock
055.
types,
Okay.
Coming up.
basalt rock types, you're kind of stuck with whatever you can find, unless you have a jackhammer, your deep sea jackhammer down
drill.
with you in your back pocket. Yep.
Any interest in this watch lead?
Yeah, we can zoom on this.
Okay.
This looks like a branching coral, octocoral possibly.
Yeah, these branches are so far apart and wispy, I wonder if this is going to be S1 clade bamboo coral.
Take a look at this.
Or the same as we've been seeing earlier.
I think I see, or maybe I'm
Okay, video.
seeing
Let's
things
come in.
based on the perspective, but there
All
seems
right
to be
there.
2 branches coming out of each branch point, kind
Oh,
of at
yeah.
90-degree angles, which is reminiscent of the one that we thought we saw a while back before we sampled the coral that we did. And I don't think that's usual for bamboos. They often branch at kind of 90-degree angles and branches coming off of both sides. Scott?
No,
Okay, if you want
that
to
is
come in
not
tighter
usual.
video, you can.
Certainly in the genus Okeanos, we see, I guess I would call this trichotomous branching. There is another one still in the process of being described that grows like a candelabra or a trident.
Okay, video, let me know what
Yeah,
you want.
this is unusual. It is reminiscent again of that tree clade, the one on the New England seamounts that we collected. It seemed like we couldn't figure out that there was any pattern to branching, so maybe similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to.
Whenever you're good, video.
You know, we're not quite to waypoint 2 yet, but is this a collection candidate, or can we move on from this?
How far have we moved?
It's tough to say. I'm not convinced this is different from what we collected
move,
earlier.
so even if we finish it, I think we're okay.
Okay.
We won't know.
All right, we can move on. Watch
made
lead.
the collection, but because we have that one from earlier,
I think
I
we're
would
fine.
say no. Let's wait for something.
Yeah. Yeah, we can move on from this.
Okay. Let's keep going then.
I think, at this stage in the game, we might want to prioritize a rock collection, but, we've been prioritizing rock collection since the beginning of the dive, and there's just nothing that seems really loose here. The only geological samples that have been collected from this area are sediment cores, and it's always good to help out the geologists understand what the construction of this feature is. Oh yeah, right in the middle of that sediment there's a sea cucumber.
This might be like a rubble pile on the right.
Okay.
Look over there.
All right.
Or maybe, oh yeah, is that some loose rock up there?
Just a snap zoom on the sea cucumber might be enough. We want to keep moving.
It's a really lonely sea cucumber. We haven't seen many.
Come in, video.
No, we haven't.
Hold right there.
Yeah, this is like similar to what we saw earlier. It's a little bit more purple, but
on the slope or on the when we first touch the bottom?
First touch the bottom.
All right.
Yeah,
when
that's
you're
right.
good, video, you can come in or out.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay, and then let's move over this one. Yeah, I think those are too big and
Nothing loose.
yeah, I don't think there's anything there.
Okay. Maybe up there, like you see the right side of that rock up ahead of you.
Okay.
It's hard to say if that's just like
All right. Well, thanks for looking.
All right, Pat, it's been about another 6 minutes since the last one was called in.
Okay.
Do you want to hop another 15 meters?
Sea cucumber.
take a look up slope. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Copy.
You're
So
okay with
happy
that,
with-
Fernando?
No, I didn't hear that.
We're talking another 15 meters at maybe 060.
Okay.
So we not really seen any fish.
Copy that.
Only in
I
the
will
beginning of
quote
the
it in
dive.
15
Just a
meters.
couple of ip knobs,
Yeah.
060.2.
or